Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for March the 4th in the year of our Lord 2025. Whoa, folks, there's so much to cover, so little time to get it done. It's amazing, but understand this. It doesn't matter what happens in the news cycle. It doesn't matter how crazy it gets. Our goal always to promote God, family, and country, and to protect life, liberty, and property, and to do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Before we get to our guests today on the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, I want to highlight Trump to address a joint session of Congress tonight. The speech will likely see the president providing an overview of his flurry of executive actions and policy changes over the past 42 days. Epoch Times with the details on that. And you might ask, hey, why is it not a State of the Union address, Sam? Why is it just addressing Congress? In other words, an address to the joint session of Congress as opposed to a State of the Union? And the answer is very simple, because the delivery is different. Usually a State of the Union address is the, second, third, fourth kind of area of Congress. In other words, after the president's been there for a while, then he can say, hey, here's the State of the Union on my watch. So it's usually the second, third, or fourth year for a president. The first year, look, he's only been in office for, 45 days or something like that? 42 days? Not even 60 days. And so he can't really give a State of the Union unless he just kind of looks at it from the outside and says, hey, I've stepped into here. It's 42 days in, and I'm going to look at it and tell you how it is. Well, it's really more of a let's address Congress. Let's explain who we are, what we're doing, what the changes are, what we've done thus far. In other words, a preparation for the State of the Union next year, if you will. And kind of a summary of, hey, here's what I've done. Here's the mess I've found, or here's the good news, or whatever the case may be. President Trump going to talk, I'm sure, about a lot of issues. The border, the deportation being a big issue, I'm positive he'll talk about. He's going to talk about the debt ceiling coming up and the need to, quote, raise it or remove it entirely. He's going to need to go ahead and talk about, let's see, what else would be the big issue? Oh, the taxes. We got to drop taxes, lower taxes. Newt Gingrich even getting in the middle of this saying, hey, you know what? If the Republicans don't significantly reduce taxes by July the 4th, it's going to be bad news for them come election time. I think he's right as rain. I don't really see Congress moving at any speed worth moving. It's a disgrace over at Congress. Mike Johnson, just a shame. They're working on a big omnibus, huge, big, beautiful bill. But they've only got a couple of weeks to pass that. The Democrats are rioting. Several Republicans are jumping ship. It isn't going to go well. I told them in the beginning, and I mean it now, you've got to work on little teeny bills. One issue at a time bill, right? Not these big omnibus spending bills. And had Mike Johnson done that, it's already literally 2 months, 60 days for Congress. They had even longer than Donald Trump. What they should have had was 20 bills, 50 bills, 100 bills on his desk by the time he took office and said, hey, you know what, sign all these, piecemeal legislation, teeny bits at a time. We could have had a ton done by now. But what they've done is they've just absolutely wasted all of our time, been a disgrace. Shame on Congress, shame on Congress. Now, Trump's done a lot of good, a ton of good. Are there some things that he's done that I'm not pleased with? Absolutely. Yeah, just so you know, Lou's connected. You should be able to test with him right now. He says his levels are there and he's good. Don't know why he's not answering his phone. He's just texting me over and over and over. So I'm just in the middle of this feedback loop to, it's kind of very strange. All right, anyway, as we continue, what I'm saying is that I'm pleased with most of what Donald's done. There's some of it I'm not very happy with. A lot of it's rhetoric. A lot of it's And the reason why is because you cannot rule the country by executive order. Okay, I get temporary executive orders to say, hey, we're going to kick this off. We're going to lead by doing this. We're going to do this. But Congress has got to codify what the president does. Okay, they've got to back Trump's play with legislation. So far, I don't really see that they've done it at all. Oh, they've approved a couple of people. They've said, oh, yeah, let's put, McMahon in charge of the education department. They just got that done, right? McMahon in charge of the education department. But I thought we were going to jettison the education department entirely. I thought it was gone. Well, I'm not seeing it. Are you? So I appreciate Trump doing a joint session of Congress tonight. But the Senate confirmed Linda McMahon to lead the Department of Education in a 51-45 vote. That's great. If you believe we should keep the education department. But why would you appoint somebody if you're going to just shut the department down? Why not just shut it down and not even appoint a new leader? I just don't know. See, this is what I mean by I appreciate a lot of what they're doing. At the same time, a lot of it confuses me. A lot of it I feel like is a mistake. A lot of it is, what are we doing, folks? Now we hear over and over and over that Doge is saving us gazillions of dollars, and that's wonderful. But now we hear that, Doge has to keep refining. Oh, well, we didn't really cut this much. We have to change this number. We didn't really do that. We thought we were going to cut this. We really couldn't get that done. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So I appreciate Trump in a lot that he's trying to do. But I submit to you, and I will say this again and again, Trump is getting absolutely beat up by the swamp. Is he doing better than he did last time? Oh, yeah, big time. But he's still getting beat up by the swamp. And if you don't believe me, even Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, two of the most bold, clear, they got snookered by the Jeffrey Epstein files. They released a nothing burger last week, right? Now you got Pam Bondi going, hey, they finally gave me all the docs that they promised, big old truckloads of docs rolled over. We're going to look through them now and get to you guys, release it as fast as we can. We got to protect the names of the victims. I get that, support that 100%. At the same time, I go, well, how do you know you got them all this time, Pam? Last time you got lied to and snookered. There's not really any accountability for those who lied to you and played games and, violated your leadership. What's going to happen to those people? Probably nothing. Oh, they'll probably be, somehow removed or something like that, but no real repercussions, right? And that's the problem that I'm seeing with this, folks. Anyway, I don't mean to go on forever about that, but I just thought I'd make sure that you kind of understood that. I appreciate Pam Bondi. I appreciate what she's trying to do. But look, the deep state is absolutely eating these people alive. And you can say, well, no, man, Trump's got tons of gains, man. He'll go over them all tonight in the big State of the Union address. He's got a lot of gains. I get it. But everything he's been doing is in a big old snag, and it's all done by executive order and by Doge. If you're not very careful, the judges and Congress will go against Trump. That's 2 out of the 3 branches of government. They will shut him down. And you say, no, Sam, time will tell. But how much change will we really see that will stick, that will be permanent? That time will tell. All right, Lou Moore with me. Lou, welcome to Liberty Roundtable Live, sir.
Hey, Sam. Good to be with you.
Oh, good. It's working. I love it. All right. Excellent.
Technology. You never know. But
amen. Any quick updates? I don't know how much of that you were able to hear, but.
Yeah, well, I just I want to try to comfort you a little bit, and you probably have the same PTSD I have of hearing every Republican saying, "Oh, we're going to shut down the Department of Education," and they had no intention of doing it. But
yeah, they're not doing that.
But McMahon sent her first message to the employees was, "You're embarking on your last mission today." So I have a little more confidence that things are going to work out our way this time.
Trump also made what they're going to do with this, Lou.
Actually, I may have missed it.
Let's just say simply there's 10, and I'm making this simple on purpose to make a point. Let's say there's 10 things that the Department of Education does. They will move all 10 things to different departments, keep them running, shut down the education department. Smoke and mirrors look like it's incredible. Everybody's going to be shouting and hurraying and loving it. But at the end of the day, if I push things to worse agencies, meaning more abusive agencies, then we've actually given more power to the education department, although it's abolished. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say that I take sex education or children's mental health or some of these things, and I move it to, the Department of Health, just say, and or the health department. And so now the health department has way more influence in my life with inability for me to reject it or whatever else than the education department did. So just take vaccines or take this or that or whatever. And they'll move it to these different departments, and it'll actually be a leaner, meaner, more abusive, quote, education department. But the education department won't exist. If we're not careful, that's what's going to happen.
Well, these kind of games always go on with the bureaucracy. So, that caution should go with every part of this operation. But I guess I have a little bit more faith than you do, at least at this point, in what Trump's doing. But yeah, no, I get it. I have
complete faith in what Trump's doing. What I don't have faith in is those around him.
That could be a problem. I think he's got a much better team around him this time than he had last time. But
I agree
I get
100%. It. Will it be enough to overcome the swamp?
Yes, we shall see.
Or will the swamp just be a tidal wave and just, time will tell. I agree with that. But I'll give you an example. Why do we want to put an education department leader in charge of the education department if we're getting rid of the education department? What do we need a leader for?
Well, there actually it does make sense to have one, because somebody has to be in charge of shutting it down. I mean, you have to have somebody at the top of the pyramid, even if you're deconstructing the pyramid. So I don't see that there's anything illogical or
there was this guy named Ezra Benson back in the day, and his goal was to shut down the agriculture department, and it was his goal, but he couldn't get it done.
Yeah, but he had a president, Sam, who was not on our team.
You're right about that.
And you know that.
Time will tell. I want to have Bob Songer, Klickitat County Sheriff, join us in this conversation. Bob, welcome to Liberty Roundtable Live, sir.
Thank you.
What do you think about this discussion? I don't mean to be negative. I'm not downing Trump. I like a lot of what Trump's done. I just don't trust the people around him very well, and I'm concerned that it's all talk.
Well, here's the bottom line. Would you rather had Harris?
No, of course not.
Okay. So, Trump's in there. He's got a lot of support by the voters. I'm not saying Trump's going to make every decision and everything's going to be right and Christmas has arrived. But he's one hell of a lot better than what we had for 4 years that destroyed the United States, that literally had this country invaded by thousands of illegal immigrants, and a lot of them crooked, drugs, human trafficking, and go on and go on and go on. Now, as far as the education part about it, the way the public schools are being ran today, if I had a young person, child in my family, no way in hell would they be in a public school. It would be privately homeschooled or some other form of schooling. This country has got to get straightened out. I believe Trump's got the set to do it. Is he going to make mistakes? Of course he's going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But what we had for 4 years and what we were about to get for another 4 years was a bunch of communist, Marxist, socialist-minded idiots. That's my take.
Amen.
I agree 100% with your point, Bob. And the reason I bring this up is not to attack Trump. I've already said that I think Trump's doing a great job, and I love a lot of what he's done and everything. But I believe that we need to push our members of Congress. We, the people, need to put pressure on Congress to codify what Trump's put in place. And I believe we need to basically look at these Supreme Court justices and start impeaching these clowns. They're not obeying the law or interpreting the law. They're making the law from the bench. They're activist judges that need to be stopped. And so we, the people, have a tremendous role to play. We can put incredible pressure on some of these people surrounding Trump to say, hey, you're going to have to get out of the way or get on board, one of the two. Even Newt Gingrich, who's not my favorite guy, but even Newt Gingrich basically says this, hey, they better get a tax cut in place by July 4th or it's going to be very difficult in the next election cycle. I don't think Newt Gingrich is being negative towards the administration. I don't think I'm being negative towards the administration. What we're really doing is saying we've got a window, folks, and it's time to act. And we, the people, cannot be spectator sports, Bob.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree with what you're saying. You got Congress and even the Senate. You got people that need to pull it together. We've got to get these executive orders that Trump has signed out. We got to get it confirmed by Congress and the Senate and so forth. You're absolutely right. We got to get some of these people that want to. Well, look at what the demonstrations are going on. The Democrats, far left, not all Democrats. I'm sure there's some good ones, but you got your far left Democrats out there actually being un-American. If you think about it, they're against this country. They're against the United States, and God.
And that's
God
why I say
knows
Americans
why
need
I
to
know.
realize that and vote these people out clearly.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lowell, what do you say? Or Lou, what do you say about this? I'm not trying to down Trump, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I am trying to say we've got a very narrow window here, and we better get engaged, and we better do it fast.
We have a narrow window. That's just the reality of politics. Unfortunately, it was FDR that gave us the first 100 days, but it kind of is a good metric to see whether things are going to be able to stay on the track or if they're going to go off the rails fairly quickly. Now, I have a lot of optimism, Sam. I just got to say, more than I've had. I mean, I'm going to be 70 years old next month. This is the most optimism I've had in my entire life about any president.
And hold on, and I would say for good reason, Lowell or Lou. Wow.
Yeah.
Lou.
Well,
you
say Lowell.
Somebody knows.
Lowell's a great man. I don't mind being confused with Lowell anytime. But anyway, I mean, we will see. We will see about Department of Education. There's some argument that we don't want to close the Department of Education immediately because we can use the unconstitutional powers that it has to shut off all of this DEI and really get it shut off all the way down to the local level. Now, some people don't like that kind of thinking, but there is an argument to be made. We don't want to completely diminish the powers of that agency until we completely clean out the education system. But anyway, some of this stuff gets a little complicated. Anyhow, I think Trump is sincere. I think he's put in the best possible people he could put in almost every one of these cabinet posts. I mean, the Kash Patel pick, it was fantastic. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, he needs to put Mark Lamb in charge of the DEA. He needs to put Sheriff Richard Mack, the ambassador to El Salvador. He needs to go ahead and get me involved in the media, Lou. There's a lot that can still be done. We got to work on it.
Well, I don't know if I want to use Sheriff Mack down in El Salvador. They're already straightened out. We don't need that much talent down there, I don't think. That guy's done a heck of a job down there.
What we need is coordination with the countries that kind of make sense and that are working on it and stuff like that. We need, maybe Argentina, we need to kind of work with them a lot more. We already borrowed their chainsaw, so, we're doing pretty good. Anyway, the sheriffs, in my opinion, are one of the great keys to the operation when it comes to the deportation plans and everything else. A lot of sheriffs are willing to work and, partner with the president on this. The liberals are going nuts about that. However, you know what? They're trying to shut down the office of sheriff everywhere they can. Lowell, let's start there.
Yeah.
Lou, let's start there. Wow.
Write it on your hand, Sam. No, I'm just kidding. You got a situation and Sheriff Songer may know more about this than I do, but they have elected what appears to be a constitutional sheriff in Pierce County, Washington, which is the second biggest county in the state. And, he stood up. They went after him when he was running for office. They went after him for being supportive of the J6ers, for taking constitutional positions on a number of issues. And he did not back down one iota. He won. He's now the sheriff. And so suddenly we see the legislature wanting to give themselves the powers to decertify elected sheriffs, going against the will of the people. One more example of the Democrats primarily not supporting democracy.
Since we don't have a democracy, I'm not too worried about that. We have a constitutional republic, but your point's well taken nevertheless. Bob Songer, do you want to chime in on this?
Well, I'd be happy to. Of course, I'm in the state of Washington, blue, 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 sanctuary state of Washington, with Governor Ferguson, Bob Ferguson, and a new state attorney general, Brown. Both are so liberal that it's scary. It's absolutely scary what they're trying to get done. Anyway, they're presenting House Bill 1399, sheriff, chiefs, etc. And what they're saying is, in short, a lot of smoke and mirrors going in that piece of legislation, obviously, because we're outnumbered in the legislature. We're outnumbered by the Democrats and the far left. And we got a state attorney general that's Democrat. We've got a governor Democrat. So having said that, you know what our conservative partners in the legislature, you know what their odds are of getting anything passed or fighting the uphill battle. They're like salmon swimming upstream. However, having said that, what they want to do in House Bill 1399, and you alluded to that, they want control over the sheriffs. I've been a police chief in Elko, Nevada. I can tell you as a police chief, if I disagree with the mayor or city council, I'm walking down the road talking to myself without cause. They can fire you in a minute. An elected sheriff, they don't have that ability. I mean, the state government does not have that ability to fire you because the people put you in office, and the people is your boss. Bottom line, governor's not your boss, county commissioners, and none of these people are your boss except the people that put you in office. And so what they're trying to do in the state of Washington is bypass that, because elected sheriffs are a pain in the butt to the governor, far left governor. So if they can get control of the sheriffs, for example, if say you wanted to run for sheriff in the state of Washington, under this bill, as I understand it, I could be wrong to some degree, but as I understand it, you don't go to the auditor's office and fill out the paperwork to run for sheriff. You have to apply with the Washington State Training Commission. Now, the Training Commission will do the background, the poly, and the psych, and then if they think you qualify, then you're allowed to be on the ballot where people can vote for you. Now, somewhere along the line, as this sheriff may misspoke, bad information, maybe have stood up against the governor's unconstitutional positions. Oh, guess who removes the sheriff? Not the people. The state's training commission jerks the sheriff out of there, and they start the process over. The guy's a Republican. 3 names will be submitted to the county commissioners. County commissioners decide, no, we'll pick this guy. Or they decide, no, we're not going to pick any one of them. Guess who picks out of the 3 then? Oh, the governor. The governor wants control over these sheriffs. Now, King County, they appoint their sheriff because they have home rule. Biggest mistake in the world. Because that sheriff is no different, and there's a lot of good police chiefs, don't get me wrong. But it's no different than an appointed police chief. Reports to the county commissioners. So there is no people involved in supervising that sheriff. Now, I tell the folks here when I get a chance to run my mouth, I tell them, never, never, never give up the elected sheriff position. You have to be firm on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Songer with us, Sheriff of Klickitat County, Washington. We're talking about they're trying to shut down the office of sheriff in the great state of Washington via legislation. The governor wants charge. They don't want the people to decide. The bottom line is it dismisses an incredible check and balance. We'll talk about that with Lou Moore and Sheriff Bob Songer in seconds on your radio.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump visits Capitol Hill tonight. He'll address the American people from that high-profile venue.
It will look and sound like a State of the Union, but the joint address is for newly sworn-in presidents to present their agenda. The trappings will be familiar, though. Donald Trump will address lawmakers in the House chamber. Republicans will likely interrupt the speech with standing ovations, and Democrats will offer a response. This year from freshman Senator Elissa Slotkin of Michigan.
And White House correspondent Greg Clugston says it takes place at 9 Eastern Time. The president has followed through on his threat to impose additional tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico. 25% levies on goods from Canada and Mexico, an additional 10% on Chinese imports. China, Canada, and now Mexico all promising retaliatory tariffs. The president's pausing U.S. military aid to Ukraine. That follows the Oval Office dust-up between Mr. Trump and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky and the latter's refusal to sign a rare earth minerals deal with the U.S. And President Trump says if someone doesn't want to make a deal that could help to end the war,
that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long.
Computer chip giant TSMC will invest $100 billion expanding semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S., primarily in Arizona.
Taiwan pretty much has a monopoly on that market, and I think pretty much is not a term that's even appropriate. They do have a monopoly, and this is a tremendous move by the most powerful company in the world.
It's a move the president says will create tens of thousands of jobs. A severe weather threat extends from the deep south up to the east coast in the next day or so, a threat of heavy thunderstorms, fierce winds, and possibly even tornadoes. Sell-off this morning on Wall Street. The Dow is trading lower. It's down about 603 points. Townhall.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. As executive director of Turning Point USA, a national radio host, podcaster, husband, and father of two, my schedule is about as crazy as it can possibly get. 2 years ago, I made the decision to take control of my health, and I chose PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition because I needed a plan that fit my hectic lifestyle. I travel a lot, and my schedule changes every week, so I need something simple. They customized a plan for my body and my schedule, and I quickly lost 30 pounds. Now I have the energy and focus to get through my busy day. PhD will help you too. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call, schedule your weight loss consultation, and see if their program is right for you. Call 855-696-2020. That's 855-696-2020. The first 11 callers who mention the word healthy will get 2 weeks added to their weight loss package. Call 855-696-2020 and mention the word healthy, or visit them at myphdweightloss.com. That is myphdweightloss.com. It worked for me, and it can work for you. myphdweightloss.com.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
My brother and two other boys were the ones that got in the car with her, and she was drunk. The road that goes to her house is like really windy, and she was taking that road at 80 to 100 miles per hour and hit into the road barriers. Her door flung open. She ran out across the street to get away from it, and the other three boys were trapped in it, and the car exploded. And then when my mom found out about it, she called me at work. I don't care what you have to do, just get up here to the hospital. You know, I parked my car and I went inside, and they took us back to this little room. My mom told me that Jay had been killed, and I lost it. The other people, because they're like, well, you can drink, but just be careful when you drink, you know? So I don't want anything to do with it, because it took my brother away from me.
A public service message from The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Welcome back to Liberty Roundtable. My name is Lou Moore. I'm a guest on this program today, along with Sheriff Bob Songer, one of the greatest Americans we have, folks, a constitutional sheriff from Klickitat County, Washington. And we've been talking in the last few minutes about a bill before the Washington State Legislature that would essentially give state agencies the ability to remove sheriffs or prevent people from running for sheriff. This is a state that has the recall, which we don't have in Utah, where we're broadcasting from today. But a lot of states don't have that option. We have the recall. The state has investigatory powers against sheriffs that do violate the law. But this, Sheriff Songer, this just looks to me like a power grab, just one more bit of centralization from Olympia.
You're spot on. That's exactly what it is. Bob Ferguson, our governor, with all due respect, brags about how many times he's sued Trump. Of course, he never says how many times he's won those lawsuits. But bottom line, he doesn't spending taxpayers' money on that. But getting back to your point, though, yes, the sheriffs, I would say the majority of sheriffs in Washington State are conservative. We fought on the COVID issues that Inslee at the time, Governor Inslee, put in place through, the state initiative and all that. We fought that, Second Amendment. We fought that as far as I-1639, controlling what guns you can purchase and all this, going against the Second Amendment. So we have been a thorn in the side when the governor of the state at the time, Inslee, now Ferguson, when they proposed, either through legislation, whether it's well-intended or not, if what they get passed flies in the face of the Washington State Constitution or the U.S. Constitution, that law, in my opinion, is null and void, and the sheriffs don't follow it. Some don't follow it, let me put it that way. But that is upsetting to the governor, of course. He would like to see everybody in lockstep. Now, what they'd like to see is total control of the sheriff. But what they're doing through this bill, House Bill 1399, I have to apologize, I don't know what the status is at this time, but what they're trying to do is at least chip away at the sheriff's authority, chip away at controlling the sheriff as best they can, and eventually, if that kind of power stays in state authority, eventually they will get control of the sheriff. But the sheriff is appointed by home rule, which Seattle did. Their sheriff now is an appointed sheriff. And under home rule, the county commissioners, as I understand it, can appoint every elected official except prosecuting attorney. So by them appointing the sheriff, that's no different than having a police chief appointed by the board of county, by the city council or the mayor.
Sure. Yeah. Well, to answer your question, Sheriff, this bill has passed through committee in the House, so I'm assuming it's going to go to the floor. I mean, there's been Republican opposition, which, as you pointed out a little bit earlier, is not a real big deal in Washington State. Not a lot of Republicans in the House, but it's been, there were some vociferous objections to it by the Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. They testified last week about some of the problems with this bill, but I think this is something we have to look at very carefully, because I'm of the mind that things don't just happen in one area or one state, and particularly Washington State. It seems like it's kind of been a petri dish, an experimental location for all kinds of tyrannical ideas and programs.
Yeah, sadly, it becomes a bellwether, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Oh, there's our host. I was one.
I was just, you guys were doing such a great job. I was just listening and enjoying it. I will say this. You mentioned that the sheriffs and the police chiefs through the Washington Sheriff's Association are standing up against this. It's impressive that the police chiefs understand the difference as well, Sheriff Songer.
Oh, yes, I agree. And I served as police chief for 4 years in Elkland, Nevada. So I know exactly, and believe me, there's a lot of outstanding police chiefs. But they're under the thumb of the city manager, mayor, or city council. If they talk out against that body of people, that's who they serve. I mean, they go out and they arrest people and they do enforce laws, but that is their boss, is that city council and the mayor. So they speak out against that, they're gone. And the same thing applies under home rule, where a sheriff is appointed by the commissioners. It's no different, same type of situation. That sheriff can be let go in a New York second, and he'll be going down the road talking to himself, or she will. So, it's frustrating. I hope that people are smart enough that not ever give up that. Because under the current status in Washington State, as you mentioned with the recall, they have recalled sheriffs. So that possibility is there. If that sheriff is such a bad sheriff in the county the sheriff is working in, has been elected to serve in, people can stand up and recall that individual based on criteria that would be substantial for recall, or not elect him. Or if the sheriff is committing crimes, he can go to jail like any other citizen, and should if he's committing crimes, or she. But the point is, the sheriff position, elected position, is the only law enforcement position in our country that is elected. It's not controlled by other politicians.
Which is critical, because this creates a check and balance vertically and horizontally, where you've got the different branches of government, even at the local level. There's the, as you mentioned, the city council or the county commission or the equivalents thereof. They can provide a check to the sheriff, so can the DA, the district attorney, or, so you've got the three branches of government with the checks and balances. What they want to do, though, is disable this check and balance, and they want the governor just to, as Lou wisely said, just pull a power grab here. That's what this does. And the problem with it is it disables the check and balance and gives the governor way too much power.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they know that. That's why they're pushing this. It's like, we'll say, well, the governor, you're violating the constitutional rights of the state of Washington and the U.S. Constitution. And, the attitude is, guys, sue me. Go ahead, sue me. I'll fight you with your own tax dollars. So,
well, and then you mentioned that he's claimed that he's sued the Trump administration over and over and over, and he knows a lot of times those lawsuits will go nowhere, but he wants to take credit on one hand for suing Trump. On the other hand, he wants to say, sue me, because he knows full well it won't do any good. It'll just create distraction, Sheriff Songer.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in that. And the thing is, in order to get Washington State, in my humble opinion, and that's just my opinion, I'm not an attorney and certainly don't want to be, but it goes to the Washington State Supreme Court, and it'll fold like a wet tent. They'll back the governor and so forth. They have a number of times. And, it's frustrating for law enforcement in the state of Washington. They have crippled the ability of law enforcement to perform the proper duties to the citizens they serve. And they modified some of the laws. We're now able to pursue hot pursuit on a vehicle if the person's involved in a serious crime. There for almost 2 years, we couldn't even arrest for possession of narcotics. It's just...
It's psychotic. It's crazy.
Yeah. I've been in this business going on 57 years in law enforcement. By the time I finish my term, it'll be 58. And I can tell you that the law... It used to be there was law enforcement could do the job for the citizens they served. Anymore, it's defund the cops, spit on the police, kick them where you know where, and do everything you can to investigate the police, throw them in jail if they're doing their job, and that's happened. There's several examples out there, and riots have been over. So, but there's a lot of disappointment, and so you can't even find people to hire on in law enforcement anymore. You get a few, but by and large, there's a lot of people say, why do I want to do that job when it might cost me my life, obviously, or prison time? Here's one of the thoughts I had for these top politicians like governors and state attorney generals and prosecutors and judges and county commissioners. Law enforcement, we go through a background investigation, a lie detector, and psychological testing. Why don't that apply to all those politicians?
Oh man, 90% of them wouldn't be able to serve, Lou.
Yeah, well, this was actually pointed. Excuse me, Sheriff. But that was actually pointed out in this article. That one of the Republicans in the legislature up there brought that up, with the implication that there wouldn't be a whole lot of the representatives there in Olympia that would pass.
No, and I'm not against a good heavy background psych and poly. I'm not against any of that. I've gone through it. I'm not against it. But you think about it, law enforcement officers, they're the mechanism out there serving the public, throwing bad guys in jail, and feeding the system. If law enforcement did not serve civil papers, sheriffs, did not make arrests, why would you need a prosecutor? Why would you even need a judge? You wouldn't, because they'd have no cases.
Well, it's all about the checks and balances, and it's important for people to remember, there's a few bad apples when it comes to cops, and the problem is that the mainstream media trumpets those bad apples and acts like that's the majority. That's false. The majority of police officers and those who work in that field mean well, want to do right, just like the medical profession. Most of them are there because something in their life has made them want to serve, or, et cetera. And we need to really understand that. And if we feel like, hey, the run-of-the-mill, police officer or sheriff or whatever isn't educated enough to their responsibilities, in other words, to de-escalate situations, to understand the checks and balances and obey the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, keep their oaths of office, that, maybe they're too aggressive. All we need is better training, and that's what the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association is all about. It's really training and guidance that we need to give these people rather than defunding and attacking them. Why not just give them training and support and guidance about how to deal with certain situations? I think a lot of times cops find themselves in a no-win situation, and some better training can alleviate that, Sheriff Songer.
Well, you're spot on, Sam. You're spot on. Geez, I need you to talk to my Board of County Commissioners about budgeting on training.
But, Lou, I think this is critical, though, for people to understand, because there is a way forward, people. There really is. And it can be community policing can lead the way to where people get to know their sheriff, get to know their police officers, and pretty soon you got friends and eyes and ears all over your community, right?
I think, Sam, it's not just a way forward. It's absolutely the way forward. I mean, if we are going to stop the tyrannical designs of the people who, despite Trump's immediate victories and whatnot, are all around him in Washington, D.C., all around all these state capitals, all around a lot of the county courthouses of these larger counties, if we're going to stop this tyrannical force that has kind of overshadowed this country, it's going to have to be precinct by precinct, county by county, and the sheriffs are going to lead the way. I 100% believe that. I mean, we're not talking about an optional program here with elected sheriffs, constitutional sheriffs. We're talking about an absolute necessity and a vehicle that's been given us by God to protect our liberty.
Amen. Amen. Right on. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, and I've been very proud to serve in law enforcement for a number of years. Like I said, I enjoy it. I enjoy serving the people of our county. And it's just sad when you get officers, and I know of a couple situations, but where there's riots and all this kind of stuff, and officers trying to do their job, and literally end up in prison trying to do their job.
Yeah, if you look at the Seattle example in that Chaz City, they literally ran the police out of their own department, for crying out loud.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. And we got to turn that around, and the only way it can be turned around is by the people. The people have to take charge, and after all, we serve the people. That's the whole idea. And they're our boss, and we need to convince them that these kind of laws that Washington State's trying to pass that control the only elected law enforcement they got, sheriff, don't tolerate that. Vote it down. And if the law passed, get petitions out there and, to go after it because of being unconstitutional. So, I don't know. Excuse me, I know I got about 22 months to go, but while I'm going, I even made the comment because of our immigration status in this state, a sanctuary state, I might add, protect the illegals that invaded our country. I made it well known that if Tom Holmes calls me by any chance, he can put me on speed dial because we're going to be helping him.
Yeah, Tom Holman, Bob Songer working together to take care of America and keep us all safe. You know, one of the interesting things in this article, Lou, to me, highlight some other tidbits, the points they make. This isn't an article that I would have written, but it does encapsulate the issue very nicely, right?
I think so, yeah. Well, what I'm disappointed in, Sam, from what you see in the article is that the Republicans and the conservatives are trying to use process kind of arguments against it, like, oh, it might not really work, it might get overturned in the court, rather than saying it's a direct attack on our sheriffs and we won't tolerate it.
And it's a disabling or a disassembling of the appropriate checks and balances that made America great. That's really where people 100%. Need to focus here. What you do is you disable a check and balance. Pretty soon, the sheriff has to answer to the mayor, or the police chief, or the sheriff has to answer to so and so. And so pretty soon, it's a bureaucracy discussion. Hey, shut up or you're going to get fired, versus a accountability to the people discussion. And a serious check and balance is broken like that when we do that. That's where they need to focus, in my personal opinion. And if the American people understand that, I think even Democrats will be like, whoa, hold on. I kind of like this check and balance stuff, Sheriff Songer.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with what you just said. Yeah. I hope and pray to God, I feel I'm a religious individual, pray to God that, we know it works. Trump got into office, so we know prayer works.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
But I pray that the citizens of the state of Washington and other states, when they try this, but the citizens of the state of Washington will not tolerate giving up their ability to elect a sheriff.
Amen. All right, what else in the article do we need to highlight, Lowell? Lou, anything else?
I think I already highlighted the part that's most concerning to me, which is this bill is ready to be to go to the floor of the House in Washington. So if people are gonna put the brakes on, they better be doing it right now. Get a hold of their representatives, particularly those who are a little bit more reasonable on the Democrat side of the aisle. But this is the time, because otherwise they're going to pass this thing. It's going to go to a Democrat Senate and then to a Democrat governor. So if we're going to stop it, it needs to be now.
Do we have a plan in Washington to push back and stop this, Sheriff Songer? And how do we go about it? We want to be effective. We want to be productive. And how do we go about this in a way that can change the game? Do you know?
Well, Lou just mentioned that. We contact our representatives in our district and really, really ask them and demand them to go against this when it comes up for votes and stuff. Short of that, I'm not sure.
Is the National Sheriff's Association willing to help with this and speak out against it?
That I don't know. I would hope so, and the Western State Sheriff's Association as well. I would hope so, but I'm not sure on the national level. But my gosh, I would be shocked if they would not speak out.
Well, it's something we've got to do, folks. This is critical. And in some states, they've already disassembled the sheriff entirely, and they're working on it in other blue states. Pritzker in Illinois, I think it is. Basically, this guy, he said he was going to basically take away guns and do all this different stuff, and the sheriff said, no, you're not. And so they realize the value of the sheriff, and that's why they want to take that value, that, check and balance away, and we see it all over the country. And they're starting in blue states, and as Bob Songer, sheriff of Klickitat County, Washington, wisely warns, and I think Lou mentioned this too, hey, if we're not very careful, it starts there, but it'll come to a theater near you if you're not very careful, Sheriff Songer.
Yes,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all these blue states, there's a reason they call the West Coast the left coast. The California, Oregon, and Washington in lockstep. It's just what one does, the other tries to top it.
And that's why people are trying to promote the Idaho Project to break away from that lockstep kind of tyrannical viewpoint of the left coast, Lou.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, this has been going on for years and years. There's counties in Northern California, what they call the North State, have been trying to get out of California. The folks Eastern Oregon, Baker City, and up through there, and then as you mentioned, the folks in Washington. I'm very Sheriff Songer. I lived in Everett, Washington, for 33 years. Pretty familiar with the state and the politics up there. And once you go over the Cascades, you're in God's country. I mean, it's great. It's a great place.
Well,
you read about that. Sad. Any final thoughts for us on this, Bob?
Well, it was really sad. If you're east of the Cascades, most of it's blue with some exceptions. Spokane, a little purple maybe. But we could outvote the west side if people get out and vote. But yes, I do have one thing. I want to thank the citizens of Klickitat County for giving me their support, and also citizens throughout the United States. We all need to join together. And always keep an elected sheriff, please. You got to. That's the bottom line. And I want to thank you, Sam, and Lou. I want to thank you as well for your positions, and you're taking the time to do that, and Sheriff Mack for what he does. Sheriff Mack got me started this way back when he was kind enough to give me an award for standing up against Washington's I-1639 anti-gun laws. And, of course, we stand up against, in my county, I consider people the patriots that own firearms, and safely, of course. But you have a right to own firearms under the Second Amendment, and I support that 100%. So I could go on and on, Sam. I promise you I won't. So anyway, thank you.
Well, there you have it, Sheriff Songer, Bob Songer, everybody, Klickitat County, Washington, a leader among men when it comes to sheriffs, understanding where his role comes from. His commission is because of the people that elected him. When he takes his oath of office, he gets the title of sheriff, but the people give him the power. As we back our sheriffs, that's where the power comes from. The authority might come from the, swearing in. I get it. But the power comes from we the people backing our constitutional sheriffs. Bob Songer, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.
All right, he does a phenomenal job. Lou Moore with me as well. It's not Lowell, it's Lou. Lowell was yesterday. Lou's today, people. I got to get it right. Lou Moore with me, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be available for the next segment for a couple of quick tidbits. Then he's got to fly as well. I'll take care of business the rest of the way, but hard-hitting talk radio straight ahead always. You're listening to the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live, LibertyRoundtable.com. Our nationally syndicated radio network is the Loving Liberty Radio Network, LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, download our iPhone or Android apps, and listen to your heart's content. Hang tight, more in seconds. Hour one of the can, two coming up, and God save the Republic.